Hi, welcome to SAP APO overview session. In this session, we're going to talk about what is SAP APO, and after gaining some understanding what is SAP APO, we will be talking about the various modules that SAP APO offers. So SAP APO offers four modules. One is demand planning, the second is supply network planning, then you have PPDS, and then you have GATP. So let's start our session. So the first thing is that what is supply chain? So we all know what is supply chain. Supply chain is like managing the entire operations of the business. So the primary operations of the business might be procuring the goods, manufacturing it, and delivering it to the customer. Okay, so there are various elements that are involved in a supply chain. There are suppliers who supply the goods, there are manufacturers who is going to manufacture it, distribution center who is going to take it and send it to the retailer, and then the customer can buy it from the stores. Okay, now why is APO called as a supply chain tools? Because APO, when it is doing the planning, it can take the constraints of all these elements and then finally put out the planning results. Okay, so that's why APO is called a supply chain planning tool. Now coming to the SAP APO architecture, this is basically the APO architecture, and on the left side of the screen there is something like OLTP box. In the middle there is the APO box, and on the right side there is the OLAP box. So OLTP is your online transaction processing system, and it is called transaction processing system because all your master data and all your transactional data, like your all your transactions like your sales order creation, purchase order execution, all happens in your OLTP system, and it's also the ECC system. Now what happens is that there is a standard interface also known as the core interface, using which the data from your OLTP system, that is your ECC box, is moved to APO. What APO does is APO takes in all this transactional data, all this demand, and all this master data, and does the planning. And finally, once the planning results are ready, the planning data is sent back to ECC for execution purpose. Okay, and on this side, the OLAP screen, OLAP box, that's used for what do you call reporting purpose, and it is also called the SAP BW tool. In terms of planning, the general sequences start with forecasting, and that's done in demand planning module, followed by its SNP, where we do a rough cut multi-plant planning, and then it is PPDS, where we do a minute and second level of planning. It's a plant level optimization, and then we do the deployment. Okay, now there is one more module called a GATP, which doesn't directly follow in this sequence. One more important thing to note here is whether to go for DP, SNP, PPDS, or GATP is completely dependent on the business need. And what happens is that based on the requirement, companies may implement all of them or combination of few of them. Okay, so now let us move into the demand planning module. Now what is the demand planning module of SAP APO? The demand planning module of SAP APO is primarily used for forecasting. So why is forecasting important? Forecasting is important in case we want to know what would be the future demand of the customer. And how does it help us? According to the forecasting, we can have our stock and inventory created that would help the manufacturing to produce goods on the right time. It will help us to have optimized inventory so that we don't purchase stocks which we are not going to make, and finally the customer won't buy. Okay, so in short, demand forecasting helps us to get or try to find an approximate figure what the customer might be needing in the future. Now in terms of APO demand planning, APO demand planning offers multiple forecasting techniques like univariate, MLR, and composites, which has further different forecasting techniques like constant, trend, seasonal trend, auto model deduction, and there are many forecasting techniques which APO demand planning tool offers. Apart from that, it has functionality like life cycle planning, promotion planning. So life cycle planning is used in case we're trying to introduce a new product in the market and we're not sure about how the future trend or the future demand of that product will be. Promotion planning is used in case we want to map promotions with to our forecast. Okay, and seasonal planning is used in industries which have a seasonal based demand, like the garments manufacturers. So in summers people would look for lighter clothes, and during winters people would look for warmer clothes. So that's APO demand planning. Overview is it's basically a forecasting tool, and along with the forecasting, it has got tools which can enhance the forecast results like life cycle planning, promotion planning, collaborative planning, seasonal planning. Now, coming to the technical part of demand planning, what is there? There is InfoCube and transfer structures. So basically, what we do in demand planning is that we pull in the data from ECC, and that data is our sales history. So that's the first part. Okay. So that info involves InfoCube creation, transfer structures, transfer data from ECC, and finally the master data that we create in demand planning is called as CVC, characteristics value combination. Okay. So once the master data part is set up, we move forward and do the planning. But where do we do the planning? We do the planning in the planning books. So planning books is nothing but the Excel. It's a kind of Excel creation system in a little bit different format. So we go ahead and create our planning books. Then we move to the forecasting. So forecasting, as I said, can be done by univariate, MLR, and composite. Once it's ready, we go ahead and see what is promotion planning and life cycle planning. Apart from that, to check how good our forecast is, SAP APO provides error technique, and mass process background processing is used to set up the entire demand forecasting process in background. So once the logic is set up, no need to manually execute automatically during non-working hours. The jobs would run, and the forecast results would be created. You also have macros, which are used macros, and macros are very powerful. You can create different additional logics, mathematical calculations, and proportional factors and others. So that's a brief about DP. DP, in a summary, is a more of a forecasting tool. Along with that, it offers different ways to schedule different processes in background, and you also have promotion planning and life cycle planning. So now we have our forecast ready. Once the forecast is ready, the next question comes: how are we going to manufacture it, or where are we going to get the stocks of this forecast so that we can finally send it to the customer? So that's where the tool SNP comes in. So SNP, as a name suggests, it's a supply network planning. So it can do a cross-plant multi-level planning. So what we do in SNP first is we lay our supply network. So ideally, in a real-time scenario, what is our supply network? Our supply network are our DCs, which actually get the orders from the customer and then deliver the stocks to the customer, and plants, which actually manufacture those stocks. Okay, so in SNP, what we do is we create our distribution centers, we create our plants, and we connect this distribution center and plant using something called as transportation lanes. So that creates our supply network planning structure. That's the first part of SNP. The next thing what we do in SNP is that we go ahead and create all the master data. So what are the master data that we might need? Product master. So the materials which we are selling to the customers, materials which we are buying from the vendors, and various semi-finished goods. Okay, so that's product master. Then you have resources, which resembles the machines which are used in the shop floor for manufacturing. Then you have PDS, PPMs, purchase info records, transportation lanes, and many other master data. So the first part is setting up your supply network. Second, we go ahead and create our master data. And third, we start to handle our forecast. So now we have the forecast, and how do we manufacture it? To manufacture the forecast, we create planned orders and production orders, which then, when confirmed, create stocks in the system. So to create planned orders and purchase requisition in the system, there are three kinds of engine which SNP offers. SNP offers SNP heuristics, SNP optimizer, and SNP CTM. SNP heuristics is more of a two-step planning process. It's first infinite and then finite. So once the production plan is ready, one needs to do a capacity labeling. Another part about SNP heuristics is it's a very fast engine, and it's more or less similar to the ECC MRP process. No doubt, it does a cross-plant planning, which even ECC cannot offer. Now coming to SNP Optimizer, SNP Optimizer is a cost-based planning. So what do we mean by cost-based planning? When it is trying to do the planning, it tries to see what are the different costs that are incurred in manufacturing that product, and then it tries to see what is the profit that this stock would bring into the customer, to the company. If the profits are not up to the mark, it might even not create or not plan to manufacture that. So SNP Optimizer is a cost-based planning, and CTM is a priority-based planning engine. So we might have different customers who are of priority based, different products who are of priority based, different locations which are of priority based. So CTM is a more of a priority based engine. So these are the three planning engines which SNP as a tool offers. And what is the utility of these three engines? The utility is same. It takes in the demand and creates planned orders and purchase requisition. So that's the basic utility. But how these planned orders are created and how this purchase requisition are created and the scheduling logic of all this are different. Okay, so that's the second part. So these are the three engines that SNP offers. Apart from this, SNP also supports deployment, transport, load builder, and VMI process. So deployment is basically used, as I mentioned in the starting of SNP, that DCs supply the goods to the customer, and where do the DCs get the goods from? They get it from their plants. So there's a possibility that the requirement of DC is more and the plant might have produced less. So in that case, what quantity of goods goes to which DC is controlled by your deployment run. So there are various logics that are built in the system that helps to distribute goods to the DC in case there's a shortage in the plants. And transport load builder is used in case we want to use optimal utilization of our resources. Now, in terms of SNP, what we do, as I said, we set up all the master data. So again, the master data is set up in the ACC front, and we use a core interface to bring this master data to APO. And so the first 3 points are about the master data creation and bringing them to APO. So there are different kind of master data like your location, product masters, work centers, routings, BOM, PDS, PPMs, purchase info records. So all these master data are bought through APO in using core interface. The next thing we have is planning book, which are basically for SNP the standard planning books where we execute our planning runs, which will basically planning book shows us what is the demand scenario, what is the supply scenario, and in case supply is less than demand, when we take the planning run, it would go ahead and create the planning run. Followed by that, we have CTM engine. So we talk about the different engines which SNP offers. Then there is deployment, TLB run, safety stock planning, process chains, storage alerts. So these are the few things that come under SNP. But the basic thing about SNP is SNP does a rough cut planning. It's a multi-level planning. It offers different engines like heuristic, optimizer, and CTM, and then it offers deployment and TLB functionality to the business. Now, the third and the last element in terms of normal SAP APO flow process is PPDS. So what PPDS does? PPDS does is a minute level, second level, finite plant level planning. So once we have done a rough cut planning using SNP, PPDS moves ahead and tries to find out an optimal solution of the plant. And again, the important thing about PPDS is more of a industry specific solutioning. So uh, it has different kind of solutioning like sequence optimization, which is used in paint industry. So just to give you a quick example, let us think there's a paint industry and it has received a red color order, a blue color order, again a red, blue. So all these orders are getting manufactured in some vessels. So once we prepare the red order, we have to clean up that red vessel and again prepare it for the blue. Once blue is ready, again yes, what we can see, there is a constant cleaning operation involved in the vessel, lot of color wastage, lot of efforts wastage. Instead of that, what sequence optimization does is, for a specific horizons, it brings all the red orders together, all the blue orders together, all the green orders, and then yellow orders. So how does this help? It helps to optimize your production plan by minimizing switchovers and maximizing your output. That's one example of sequence optimization. There are other utilities like block planning, shelf life planning, campaign planning, and PPDS is a more of a heuristic based planning. So heuristics are nothing but small algorithms which are available for PPDS, and we combine this and create our own planning logic. PPDS offers very good reporting tools, and it also has a DS board. So DS boards is a very good tool that helps us to see the order status in a very good manner, and using that graphical interface, user can drag drop orders, change the order status, and a lot of functionality available with PPDS. Okay, and PPDS is most suitable in case we are trying to use a make to order scenario, and PPDS is the only tool that supports variant configuration. Now, what are the things that generally come under PPDS? Master data and SIF, it's more or less similar to SNP. Heuristics, so there are around 40 heuristics which SAP PPDS offers as a standard, and it's good to understand what is the logic and how does this heuristic work. Next, there are other features like setup sequencing, block planning, shelf life planning, campaign planning, and PPDS has one more engine called the PPDS optimizer, which is different from SNP optimizer. You have product interchangeability, subcontracting, and detailed scheduling board. So these are some of the topics which are good to know in terms of PPDS. Now keep coming to GATP. GATP is a module that doesn't follow the normal sequence of DP, SNP, PPDS. It's a module that can directly work with SNP, directly work with PPDS, but it's a very powerful and robust tool. PPDS is an enhancement to the normal ATP check process that we have in ECC. So what happens is with GATP, if you have ATP check activated, when we do the ATP check, GATP goes ahead and triggers PPDS, and then it creates a PPDS planned order, and that can be used for sales order delivery date confirmation. Okay, so there are various functionality that add-on functionality that SAP GATP offers. Product check, product allocation, check against forecast, combination of all this. So these are some advanced method of ATP checks. Okay, and it also offers other functionalities like CTP and MLATP, and you can also set up different rules. Now the thing is that with GATP, it also in terms of complexities of all this module, DP on a understanding wise, it is not that complicated. SNP, it's more interesting. PPDS, it gets complicated, and GATP, it kind of inherits functionalities of some of DP, some of SNP, some of PPDS. So if you're planning to learn GATP, it's a good idea that one understands the processes of SNP and PPDS well. So that's it, an overview session. Let us know if you have any queries, and thank you for listening to us. Thank you.